Het is misschien een hele zit, maar de moeite alleszins waard. Deze video bevat een interview met Redmond O'Hanlon, de Britse reisschrijver, die vertelt over de film Darwins verstekeling. Maandagavond wordt die film gepresenteerd in CineCity in Vlissingen met een talkshow. En zoals u in deze video zult zien, is een talkshow met Redmond O'Hanlon een feest op zichzelf.
As I then discovered, the pleasure of film, ridiculous compared to writing. A, you're never alone. B, everything's always on the move. Trucks come and pick you up. You do not have to walk there. And you are taken by people who really know. The VPRO really researched an extraordinary man called Willie Schmitz, who really knew northern Celebes well. Now, he also ran a refuge, and he had orangutans in it, and they'd been poached, so he was rescuing them. Now, orangutan females are quite small. They're my size, and the males are enormous. Now, this particular orangutan, well, she was lovely, but Willie, she was sort of cowering in the back of the cage, but Willie knocked on his head like this, and then on mine, like that, and then on hers when she came forward, and then she just grinned. She went, this terrific grin. And I loved the approach, which was just so unlike the BBC, you can't imagine. There's no overall script. Nobody had to really do anything that was constricting. It's really spontaneous and liberal and insane, sort of Dutch. It got a lot more discipline later, but to begin with. And all these beautiful people on board, you know, when you're an old granddad. Well, if you've seen the film, you saw them. When I got back to Amsterdam, I was just astonished. It was a sort of gift that I could have a week, my wife and I could have a week in the Ambassade, my favourite hotel on the Herengracht, yeah? And in there, I was stopped 10 times an hour walking down the street, and I thought, first of all, I thought some mistake, it's somebody else. And then I thought, well, this is just wonderful from one's fellow human beings. And all they wanted to say, everybody, was thank you. I mean, I'm just the face. Thank you for the programme, giving them so much pleasure. They learned so much, and you sat down with the whole family on a Sunday evening. And I thought, my God, the power of television. And people stopped their bicycles and cars and going past on a boats in the canal or waving. And then somebody said to me, oh dear, I'm so sorry, I just want to thank you, but I want to shake your hand. It's probably very intrusive. You've fed up with it, are you? And I said, absolutely. What do you mean intrusive? You go over there and let's do it again. Wonderful.
So you're a well-known figure in Holland now?
Well, I don't think it lasts. Yeah, I'm well famous in Holland. But last night before, at least I had a witness, but this young guy, big young bloke, he yelled across the street and then came over and said, Jacques Cousteau, wonderful programs. He said, food for the mind. So I love all that too. In fact, I took to sitting outside the Ambassador on a bollard and saying, does anybody love me today? Of course, it was the origin of species that completely turned my father's world around. He still believed in natural theology. So I grew up in a vicarage which was, well, actually very Dutch, very Lutheran, very extreme Protestant, and might have been, well, certainly wouldn't have been all right, but if I was caught with Lady Chatterley, that would be okay, in a way, or even the hardest porn there was. But to be caught with Darwin, absolutely banned from the house, banned from conversation, it was the work of the devil. This was Satan, yeah? So I read The Origin of Species. I mean, I only saw my parents 15 weeks a year, but I wasn't really at home. I was institutionalized from the age of 7. But it just so happened that that's when I got my paperback of Darwin. I was reading it down the bed with a torch. Now, that is the way to make even The Origin of Species seem fantastically exciting. So that stayed with me forever. And then eventually, indeed, they came up to Oxford when I was 18, and my Father said he's going to take me out to lunch at this hotel. Well, he'd never done that. I mean, partly because he couldn't afford it, but took me out to this hotel. What's going on? But I thought maybe we're going to be friends now. He's going to talk to me. And then after this lunch, and he kept wanting me to have another course and a pudding, and then we got back to the little house where I had lodgings, in a semi-terrace house. And he blew on the horn, and the door opened, and my mother came out with 2 petrol cans and got into the car, and he reversed like some detective story, screaming tyres, this clergyman, turned around and went. And I thought, well, that's very strange. And I got in the door, went up to my room, looked out into it, looked down on the little vegetable garden, and there was a bloody great bonfire, there. Every book that I had, they burnt everything. All the Darwins, everything was burnt. And so again, in a way, that was a gift, because I thought, still do think, my God, books matter. They matter enough for your mother to come all that way, sneak in the house with 2 big cans of petrol, which probably never carried in her life, and burn your books. And the heat was incredible. I tried to save things, but it was 2 cans of petrol, so up it went. And all they left behind was Wordsworth, who they thought must be all right. No. So I bunged him out too. I thought I'd never liked Wordsworth since. Dreadful poet, frightful creep, egotistical, sublime, and kill him. Anyway.
But could you say in a way that what the Bible was for your father, Darwin's Origin of Species was for you?
Yes, except that it was absolutely based on generations of quiet science, quiet people really thinking. There's no bullshit involved at all, no wishful thinking, no absurd myth-making, no ridiculous covering up of deep fear. All of the Bible, all religions are composed of cowardice pretending to be reality, abject cowardice. We don't like to think that we are undoubtedly going to die. That's what all religion is based on, fear of death. The Origin of Species is certainly not based on fear of anything. That's the difference. One is positive, one is, as you see, a source of, well, if not all evil, most evil. Ghastly. Quran, the Bible, the whole lot. Now, it's a fairly silly story, even though it's completely true, but of course it can't bear the weight of these wonderful intellectual ideas. It is full of the most beautiful images, shot by cameramen I came to admire beyond belief. I mean, wonderful. One of them an ex-Marine who were diving with whales, for instance, and I knew that baby whales, now they're the southern right whales, they actually weigh 4 tons, but they think when they're 4 tons, it's great fun to swim around mummy's nose, and as you pass, this baby playing with mama, you slap mama on the head, bang! Yeah. Now this baby was just playing with this cameraman called Remco Bickers, and hit him, and he just happened to go back through the water for 70 yards or so. But all of that sort of thing is in this extraordinary film, and it really does bring it alive gradually, and I think really very cleverly, how Darwin arrived at evolution by natural selection. And once you understand how he arrived, it's like biographies. Once you've got the history, you understand the real thing completely.